It was a frigid morning in New York City, the kind of cold that cut straight through your coat and settled in your bones. Pedestrians rushed down Fifth Avenue, clutching their coffees, scarves pulled tight, eyes fixed on the ground or their phones. Few noticed the figure curled under a threadbare military jacket near the towering glass facade of Trump Tower. Fewer still knew that jacket once belonged to Staff Sergeant Emily Martinez, a decorated combat medic who had once sprinted through bullets to save lives in Afghanistan. No one expected what happened next. Not the media crews, not the tourists gathering selfies, and certainly not Emily herself. From inside the Golden Tower, former President Donald Trump suddenly stepped out of routine and out of security formation. Cameras snapped into action, phones lifted in anticipation. Something unscripted was unfolding, something that would ripple across the nation. Trump walked directly toward the woman on the sidewalk. No one knew about the photograph folded in his suit pocket, a tattered picture of a young soldier and a combat medic beside a burning Humvee. No one knew that for the last 3 years, his nephew, Mark, had been haunted by the memory of the woman who'd kept him alive with nothing but field dressings and a Spanish lullaby. And no one, not even Emily, knew that she was about to be the spark for a movement that would change the lives of thousands of veterans across America. Emily pulled her jacket tighter against the wind, eyes scanning the street with the vigilance that never left her, even years after her final deployment. She had claimed this corner not because it was warm or quiet, but because it offered visibility. In combat, blind spots could kill you. In New York, they just left you invisible. She wasn't always invisible. There was a time when people called her Doc with respect in their voices. A time when she ran a private practice in Philly and her mother called every Sunday. But war has a way of following you home. And PTSD, that doesn't care about rank or ribbons. Emily checked her old Casio watch, scratched, battered, but still ticking. 6:45 a.m. time to move before the rush hour crowd started filing past. Businessmen with too much cologne and women in designer heels who walked quickly and looked the other way. She packed her sleeping bag with practiced precision, then the cardboard beneath it. She always left her space clean. Just because she lived on the street didn't mean she had to be part of the mess. In her backpack was everything she owned: a spare pair of socks, an extra t-shirt, some paperwork from the VA that never led anywhere, and a photo. The photo. Her unit, smiling before that last patrol. Before everything went sideways. Breakfast was half a granola bar split in two to last the day. A woman at the shelter had slipped her a box a few days back. Emily had learned to ration. Hunger didn't scare her anymore. Nothing really did. As the sun crept higher and the city began its noisy awakening, Emily noticed something odd. More security outside Trump Tower than usual. More suits with earpieces. Subtle redirections of pedestrian flow. A shift in the rhythm of the street, like the moment before an ambush, when everything went quiet. Her body tensed. Years out of combat, and still, her senses sharpened like a blade. Then came the news vans. She cursed under her breath. Media presence meant extra patrols, heightened security, more scrutiny. She might lose this spot today. She hated moving around. This corner had become familiar. A young woman tripped nearby, her phone skidding across the pavement. Without thinking, Emily caught her by the elbow, steadying her. Their eyes met. The woman blinked, then, surprisingly, smiled. "Thank you," she said, noticing Emily's jacket. "Were you in?" Emily nodded, already pulling away, blending back into the background. But the woman reached into her bag and offered a card. "My brother's a vet. We run a program housing jobs. Real help. Call us. Ask for Jenny." Emily accepted it wordlessly, slipping it into the same jacket pocket where her photo was tucked. She didn't believe in miracles anymore, but she kept every scrap of hope people gave her, just in case. And then the doors of Trump Tower opened. The crowd surged forward, phones raised, voices hushed. Emily stood perfectly still, a statue in worn boots and army green, invisible again, until he saw her. Until Donald Trump, eyes locked with hers, began walking straight through the crowd toward her. She didn't know it yet, but the world had just shifted beneath her feet. Emily's breath caught in her throat as the man in the red tie crossed the sidewalk, ignoring the calls from his security detail. Cameras flashed, voices buzzed, but for a moment, everything slowed just like it had back in Afghanistan. Seconds before an IED detonated and changed her life forever. Her fingers gripped the strap of her backpack. The weight was familiar, reassuring. It wasn't a medic bag anymore, just spare socks and survival. But the instinct remained. Stay alert. Stay mobile. Never show fear. Trump stopped a few feet in front of her. "That's a military jacket," he said, voice lower than expected, almost gentle. She nodded once. "Yes, sir. Afghanistan, 2 tours. Combat medic, 45th Combat Support Hospital." His eyes dropped to the insignia on her chest, faded but unmistakable. Behind them, chaos brewed. Reporters pushed forward. Phones stayed raised. His security team hovered, tense, trying to re-establish control of a situation that had veered sharply off script. Emily prepared herself for the worst, for a soundbite, for pity, for something that would make her wish she'd chosen another corner that morning. But then Trump said, "Do you drink coffee?" She blinked. "Excuse me?" "Join me," he said, nodding toward the doors behind him. "Just coffee, no strings." A murmur rolled through the crowd like a wave. His team looked panicked. This wasn't in the plan. But Trump was unmoved, focused entirely on her. "I'm not looking for a handout," Emily replied, quietly but firmly. His smile was quick, surprising. "Good. I'm not offering one. This is something else." Her instincts screamed caution. But something in his eyes, not the politician's gaze, but something deeper, kept her rooted. "You don't know me," she said. "Oh, but I think I do." He reached into his coat and carefully unfolded a photograph. The edges were worn, the colors faded. Emily stared at it and nearly dropped her pack. It was her, in uniform, kneeling beside a burning Humvee, blood on her sleeves, eyes focused. A soldier lay beside her, half-conscious, clinging to life. Her hand was pressed to his chest. Her mouth open, singing. It hit her like a punch. She remembered that day. The smoke, the screams, the searing heat of flames licking up metal, and the young soldier's face, so young, terrified, clinging to consciousness as she worked and sang to keep him grounded. That photo, it shouldn't exist. "How?" she began. "That's my nephew," Trump said. "His name's Mark. You pulled him out of that vehicle. You kept him alive until the chopper came. And then you were gone." Emily couldn't breathe. "I thought he was just another face in the medevac rotation," she whispered. "I never knew his name. I never got to find out if He's alive," Trump said. "Thanks to you. And he's been trying to find you for 3 years." The crowd had gone eerily quiet around them, sensing that something real was happening, something raw and unrehearsed. For the first time in a long time, Emily didn't feel invisible. She felt seen. "My God," she said softly. "He's upstairs," Trump added, gesturing behind him. "He came with me today. He said he had a lead. He thought you might be here." Emily's eyes filled, but she didn't let the tears fall. "Not yet. He remembered your voice," Trump continued. "The lullaby. Mi pequego angel. That's what you sang, isn't it?" She nodded, barely able to speak. "My mother sang it to me. I sang it to keep him awake, to keep him from slipping, and it worked." Trump's voice cracked slightly. "He's never forgotten. Not you. Not your voice. Not what you did." Emily stood in stunned silence as the world buzzed around her. "You saved his life," Trump said. "And now we'd like to help save yours." Trump extended his hand, gesturing toward the tower's entrance once more. "Come on," he said, his voice steady. "Let's go inside. He's been waiting for this moment for years." Emily hesitated, eyes flicking back to her corner, her little patch of sidewalk, cardboard folded and neatly stacked beside the heating vent. Her shelter, her battlefield, her prison. Then she looked forward toward the doors of Trump Tower and the man who just told her that the soldier she thought she might have lost Hadn't forgotten her. She adjusted the straps of her pack and nodded once. All right. Trump's security sprang into motion, forming a perimeter. The crowd parted in stunned silence as the two walked side by side into the gold-trimmed lobby. Phones filmed. Cameras flashed. News anchors spoke in urgent tones. But Emily heard none of it. Inside the tower, the world changed. Marble floors gleamed beneath her worn boots. Polished brass reflected her tattered jacket and unkempt hair. A woman behind the concierge desk dropped her pen when she saw them. Trump's voice cut through the stunned silence. Straight to the elevator. No press, no show. Just family. As they waited for the elevator, Emily kept her eyes low, trying to ignore the people staring. She could feel their curiosity scraping at her like cold wind. She wasn't used to being looked at anymore. She wasn't used to being anything, really, except forgotten. Trump checked his phone. Dozens of notifications poured in. Videos of their encounter were already spreading like wildfire. They're already dissecting it, he muttered, showing her the screen. Emily saw the headlines. Homeless vet meets Trump real or PR? Is this woman who they say she is? Miracle reunion or manufactured moment? Her throat tightened. They don't even know me, she whispered. They don't need to, Trump replied. You know who you are, and Mark does. That's enough. The elevator arrived. She stepped in and caught her reflection in the mirrored walls. She looked small, tired, but behind the lines and shadows, there she was. Staff Sergeant Emily Martinez, combat medic, survivor. The ride was smooth, silent, until Trump spoke again. He sent me that photo a year ago, he said. Told me he owed his life to a medic he never got to thank. He kept saying, she saved me with her voice. At first, I didn't understand what he meant. Emily smiled faintly. He was losing consciousness. I needed to keep him present. Singing was the only tool I had left. He still hears it in his dreams, Trump said quietly. The elevator chimed. As the doors opened, she was greeted not by cameras or flashing lights, but by a single figure standing by a wide window, sunlight casting him in a warm halo. He turned slowly. Emily felt her breath leave her chest. It was him. Older now, with a trimmed beard and a new weight in his posture. But his eyes were the same sharp, alive, haunted. Emily? He asked, voice soft, uncertain. She took a tentative step forward. Mark. Neither of them moved for a heartbeat. And then, you still have the jacket, he said. You still have your life, she replied. He nodded, eyes glistening. Because of you. Emily swallowed hard. I didn't even know your name. And I never forgot yours. He took another step toward her. Your voice. I held on to it. Through the fire, the pain, the blood. That lullaby kept me from fading. I never knew if you made it, Emily said, her voice cracking. I looked, but without a name. I looked too, Mark said. Everyone said it was hopeless, but I remembered your eyes. I remembered how you wouldn't let me go. They were standing face to face now, two survivors from the same storm. You did more than save me, he said. You showed me what real strength looks like. She gave a short laugh, brushing a tear from her cheek. I've been sleeping on a heating vent. Doesn't feel very strong, but you never stopped fighting, he said. Even when the war followed you home. Silence fell between them, not awkward, but reverent. A silence carved by memory and pain, and held together by something far stronger recognition. Trump cleared his throat behind them, letting the moment breathe. You ready to change some lives together? He asked. Mark turned toward his uncle. She's the missing piece. Emily raised an eyebrow. Missing piece of what? Mark reached into his bag and pulled out a tablet. On it, a website loaded with a single logo at the top. Angel Watch Veterans Foundation. Underneath, a mission statement. No vet left behind. No waiting lists. No more silence. We started this 2 years ago, Mark explained. It's growing fast. But we need someone who knows both worlds. Someone who gets the fight on the battlefield and off it. Emily stared at the screen, then at the two men in front of her. They weren't offering charity. They were offering purpose. Emily stood still for a long moment, staring at the screen. She wasn't seeing code or branding or the clean layout of a website. She was seeing names, faces, the ones she couldn't save, the ones she had, the ones who never made it home, even if their bodies did. "You really built this?" she asked, her voice quiet but full of awe. Mark nodded. "Piece by piece. Started with a hotline. Then we opened our first in-person support center last year. Now we're trying to take it national. But the VA system's broken. We both know that. Vets are falling through the cracks. Just like you almost did." She looked at him sharply. "No, not almost. I did fall through. I hit bottom. But you didn't stay there," he said. Trump stepped forward. "You kept going, kept helping people, even on the streets." Emily raised a skeptical eyebrow. "How would you know that?" Mark smiled and pulled up a file. Testimonies from other homeless veterans. Snippets from shelters. People who'd mentioned the medic lady who helped them fill out forms, who showed them which places were safe to sleep, who gave up her own spot in line at the soup kitchen for someone in worse shape. "You never stopped being a soldier," Trump said. "Even when the country forgot you. Even when the system failed." Emily swallowed hard. "Why me?" Mark didn't hesitate. "Because you saved my life, and I believe you can save a hell of a lot more." She looked down at her boots' cracked leather, stained with years of wear. And then she looked up. Her reflection in the window wasn't the lost, weathered woman she usually avoided. It was something else. It was the face of someone who still had something to give. "But I'm not the same person I was," she said. "None of us are," Mark replied. "And that's exactly why you're the one we need." Emily's hand went to her chest, where her dog tags rested just beneath her shirt. She hadn't taken them off since the day she was discharged. Not once. They were a reminder of who she used to be, and a quiet promise to never forget. "I have conditions," she said suddenly. Trump blinked. "Go on. No sugarcoating. No parading me in front of cameras like some comeback story. I'll help, but I want it real. Raw. Veterans need to know they're not broken. They're not weak. They're not alone." Mark smiled. "We wouldn't ask for anything less." "And I don't want to be your symbol," she added. "You won't be," Trump said. "You'll be a leader." The word hit harder than she expected. Leader. It had been a long time since she'd been trusted with that kind of responsibility. Since people had looked at her and seen strength instead of struggle. "Then let's start today," she said. "We've waited long enough." Downstairs, the world was still buzzing. News anchors speculated. Social media spiraled with rumors. Was it a stunt? A campaign move? A fluke? But inside Trump Tower, something far more powerful was happening. Two soldiers had found each other again, not as symbols, but as survivors. And they weren't finished. The press was already waiting. News vans lined the block. Reporters clutched microphones like weapons, ready to slice the story into sound bites. Headlines were pre-written. Narratives were forming. The crowd outside buzzed with curiosity, suspicion, hope. But upstairs, none of that mattered. Emily sat at a long oak table in a private conference room, a fresh cup of coffee untouched in front of her. Across from her sat Mark and Donald Trump, and between them, a map, a plan, a blueprint for something bigger than any one of them. "Outreach centers in every major city," Mark was saying. "Emergency housing, fast-track therapy, job training. We can't wait for the system anymore. We become the system." Emily leaned back, rubbing her temples. "It sounds amazing, but it sounds expensive." Trump nodded. "It is. But I have investors lined up, people willing to fund it if they see it's real. And that means it has to start with a face they can believe in." Her expression turned guarded. "My face?" Mark cut in gently. "Not just as a face. As a founder, a leader, a voice for the voiceless." Emily didn't respond right away. Instead, she stared out the window again, down to the street where just hours earlier, she'd been one more invisible soul in the cold. Then she said something neither of them expected. "You know, the hardest part wasn't the street. It wasn't even Afghanistan." Trump and Mark both looked up. It was losing my sense of usefulness, she continued, feeling like I didn't matter anymore. That everything I used to be had evaporated. She paused. This gives me a way back. No, Trump said softly. It gives them a way back. You never left. A knock came at the door. One of the staff stepped in, holding a tablet. Sir, he said to Trump, you need to see this. Trump took it, eyes scanning the screen. Then he turned it around. Emily stared at the image, side-by-side photos of her. One in uniform, grinning with her squad. The other from that morning, her jacket zipped up to the neck, hair messy, shadows under her eyes, but unmistakably her. The caption beneath read, "From battlefield to sidewalk, and now, maybe back again." I didn't want this kind of attention, she muttered. Too late, Mark said. You've already inspired people, Emily sighed. People are gonna say I'm being used. That this is all just a political game. They'll say what they want, Trump replied. Let them. The truth is bigger than the noise. She looked at them both. And then she said, fine, let's do it, but not just for me. For every vet still out there, wondering if anyone even remembers their name. Mark smiled, the weight in his eyes a little lighter. Welcome home, Doc. Emily felt something shift deep inside. Not a full healing. Not yet, but something like alignment, purpose. Something she thought she'd lost in that last desert sunset 3 years ago. Outside, the world waited. Reporters flung questions. Helicopters buzzed. The internet speculated. But the real story wasn't happening on Twitter. It wasn't a trending clip. It was a combat medic, once forgotten by the system, now preparing to change it. And she wasn't doing it alone. As the doors opened to the private lounge upstairs, Emily stepped in slowly. The room was quiet, calm, the city's chaos muffled by thick glass and luxury insulation. Mark stood by the window, phone in hand, the skyline glowing behind him. I can't believe we found you, he said softly, without turning. I didn't want to be found, she replied, voice steady. But you needed to be. Emily nodded. Yeah, I did. He turned now, eyes locking with hers. There was no awkwardness, no forced sentiment. Just recognition. Two lives forever intertwined by a single day in a burning desert thousands of miles away. You know what stuck with me the most? Mark asked. She tilted her head. That you didn't hesitate. You ran through gunfire like it was nothing. It wasn't nothing, she said, smiling slightly. I was terrified. I just didn't let it stop me. I think about that every time things get hard. Every time I'm tempted to give up. He pulled something from his pocket and handed it to her, a small pin, dulled by time, the medic cross. I kept this, he said. They pulled it off your gear when they treated me. I've carried it with me ever since. It reminded me that there are people who fight even when no one's watching. Emily stared at it, then closed her fingers around it. Thank you. No, Mark said quietly. Thank you. The press conference was short, purposeful, no political spin, no campaign slogans. Just 3 people standing at a podium, united by something stronger than policy experience, loss, and a shared commitment to those still fighting their silent battles. Emily spoke last, and when she did, the room went still. I'm not a politician. I'm not a symbol. I'm not here to inspire you with a story of recovery wrapped in a bow. I'm a medic. I'm a veteran. And I've seen what war is out there and back here at home. She paused, letting the silence settle. I've seen heroes fall. I've seen them rise. And I've seen far too many of them disappear into alleyways and sidewalks like I did. But we don't have to accept that. She looked straight into the camera. We can do better. We must do better. The applause came slowly at first. Then it built raw and real. No stage-managed spectacle. Just a room full of people who had, for a moment, seen past the headlines and into the heart of something that mattered. That night, in a quiet suite high above New York, Emily sat on a plush armchair with a blanket wrapped around her. It had been a long day, a heavy one, but she wasn't alone. Mark brought her tea. Trump called in to say the first 5 new shelters were already being funded. And messages kept coming, veterans from across the country, thanking her. Not just for surviving, but for speaking. She held the medic pin in her hand, the lullaby echoing faintly in her mind. Mi pequego angel, dormia. It had started as a whisper in a battlefield. Now it was a movement. To the viewer, some stories aren't built for headlines. They don't come in perfect packages. But if you've ever wondered whether a single act of kindness, a lullaby in the middle of gunfire, could echo for years and change lives, now you know. Emily Martinez isn't a miracle. She's a soldier, a survivor, and now a leader. Because sometimes angels don't fall from heaven. Sometimes they wear combat boots, carry trauma kits, and sleep on concrete until someone finally sees them again. If this story moved you, take a moment to share it. Comment below with your city and your story. And if you know a veteran who's walked a hard road, reach out. Let them know they're not forgotten. Because sometimes the longest road home is the one that leads to purpose. And for Emily, this was only the beginning.